Welcome into NBA Now. I am Tom Downey. If you guys want even more NBA news and rumors, even with free agency kind of dying down, there are still plenty of trade rumors out there. Hit that sub button right now. Let's get to 343,000 subscribers here on Chat Sports. Hit that sub button, all for free, right now. We begin with the latest on James Harden. As Yahoo Sports reports, Harden will report to 76ers training camp in the event he's not traded. Will he be rocking the alleged fat suit? Who knows? Maybe Harden's just really good at gaining weight, losing weight quickly. I remember that last trade saga we went through for James Harden there. Seems like Harden wants to be moved to the Los Angeles Clippers, I think Harden has been one of the most requested trade players in NBA history, like the most trade demands he's made, it's up there. I digress. Harden's not been moved yet, in large part because the asking price for him from Daryl Morey and the 76ers remains very high. But he is not the only player being linked to the Clippers right now. P.J. Tucker, another Daryl Morey guy from their time in Houston, has been linked to the organization. HoopsHype, Michael Scotto reports the Clippers and 76ers have had trade talks on a potential T.J. Tucker deal. Now, Tucker's scoring production is not and hasn't really been that good over his NBA career, but he does offer really good position flexibility in terms of stopping defenders. He can play opposing offense as a defender. He can play kind of all over the court, guard a bunch of different positions, and that still carries value in the modern-day NBA. He's due $11 million this year, $11.54 next year. Again, the numbers do not stand out. 3.5 points per game was really low. He actually had more rebounds per game this past year, but he can still knock down the three-pointer as needed. Does not take a lot of them. That's okay. He is still a 3-and-D wing, even if the defense is much more. Maybe he's a D-and-3 wing, we'll call him. Defense first for P.J. Tucker. But there is value. You throw him on a team with Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. That's really fun from a defensive standpoint. Now, Harden, meanwhile, his numbers have declined. Look, the points per game have dropped. The three-point center is actually really efficient this year, but the rebounds per game have dipped. That's okay. It's not his major game. Issues with the contract negotiations between Harden and the 76ers. He wanted to get paid. They didn't do it for him immediately, and now we're at the spot where Harden wants out, and he wants to be a member of the Clippers. Figuring out what a trade package looks like for LA is complicated because they're not going to move Paul George or Kawhi Leonard, and although Harden is aging, he does fit the timeline of that Clippers core, namely Kawhi and Paul George. That's a really good trio if James Harden is locked in and everyone's healthy. That's been the issue for the Clippers, right? Kawhi, love his game. I think he's still, when healthy, the best two-way player in the association, but he's not healthy that much. Meanwhile, the Sixers it's a good squad. They've just disappointed in the playoffs, hence why Doc Rivers is out once again. Joel Embiid, we'll talk about him actually in a little bit here on today's show. I'm a huge fan of Tyrese Maxey, but the Sixers are kind of in a weird spot. Harden wants out. I think at some point he gets dealt. It might just not be in time for first game. It might be more mid-season, just like the Ben Simmons deal was, which worked out pretty well for Philadelphia, all things considered, because Ben Simmons is a negative asset still. So will Harden be traded before the season begins? This is today's pinned comment. Why for yes and for no? Go vote for me in the comment section at that pinned comment, especially if the ad plays right now here on YouTube. Let's talk Joel Embiid now. And this, I'll preface coming from HoopsHype, Michael Scotto, please keep that in mind. He reports the Knicks and other NBA teams are watching the Joel Embiid situation. I feel for my Knicks fans, my friend Marshall Green especially, who he points this out a lot too. The media constantly links top players to the Knicks. Even if they're not actually going to go after them or going to acquire them, it's always the Knicks who get linked. There's only one team in each major professional sport that always find a way to get linked, realistic or not. You know, it could be Dallas Cowboys in the NFL, it can be the Yankees or the Dodgers, I think more recently in the MLB. But it's always the Knicks that get mentioned for whatever reason. Here's what Michael Scotto reports. Teams around the league, especially the New York Knicks, are monitoring how the Harden saga plays out in Philadelphia and will affect the happiness of MVP Joel Embiid. The Knicks have long admired Embiid and have significant draft capital to dangle. Embiid's former agent was Leon Rose, who now leads New York's front office. We've seen the Leon Rose angle mentioned before. Hasn't always worked out that well, but it worked out pretty well for Brunson in the Knicks there. Embiid was a 30-10 player last year, a 30-10 player in 2021 to 2022, and almost won the year before that. It's just his health. How long can he stay healthy? The Knicks do have assets to make a trade happen here. Now, you probably have to move one of Randall or R.J. Barrett to make the money work, but you can move Mitchell Robinson or other pieces as well, or they can get creative from that perspective. But the issue is, it's not Daryl Morey's MO to trade away one of the best big men in the NBA. But a core of Brunson and Embiid, it's actually a really good unit, I think, in the East. Let's have some fun today, folks. Put your trade ideas in the comment section. Get creative, have some fun. You can use the NBA trade machine to make sure it works, but get those trade ideas in the comments section. To Toronto we go, across the border, north. The Athletic reports the Raptors are assessing the trade market for Pascal Siakam. If the offers aren't great for a player who allegedly says he only wants to remain in Toronto, they will look at then simply paying Pascal Siakam. Maybe some issues, some differences between the two sides right now, but 4 years, $190-ish million. Money doesn't fix all problems, but it fixes a lot of them, and that's probably one of those between the Raptors and Siakam, who has still been one of the better players in the NBA. Not like a top 5, top 10 guy, but he offers some two-way ability, offense and defense. He's a core piece you'd be able to build around from that perspective. So I would not be surprised if Siakam ends up getting moved. I will just make a quick note here, or if he ends up staying, excuse me. They've put together a trade idea, which Dallas gets involved to get Clint Capella. The Hawks end up getting Siakam, which would be a great fit for Atlanta, but Toronto would just get a couple firsts and DeAndre Hunter, and I don't know if that's enough for them to move on from him. Or OG Anunoby as well. The Athletic, meanwhile, reports Raptors are not listening to their other key wing player, who's a bit older than Scotty Barnes is, because, according to The Athletic, the team thinks Anunoby fits their timeline regardless of what ends up happening with Pascal Siakam. If they maintain Siakam, they think Anunoby's good enough right now to help and be a core piece along that built-in core. If they move on from Siakam and build around, say, Scotty Barnes as their long-term piece, they still think OG fits really well in that category. The jump did happen for Anunoby back in 2020, 2021 campaign, but he hasn't gotten significantly better since then, kind of hovering in that, 15.5 to 17-point range. Hasn't quite taken the leap to being a 20-point-per-game scorer, but he does fit what the Raptors like. The issue for me for Toronto is they're still missing some pieces. You lose Fred VanVleet, which I think was an overpay by Houston, but Dennis Schroeder's a downgrade. You have 3 good wings, Anunoby, Scotty Barnes, who I think could take a big-time step forward this year, Siakam. Still need that lead guard, which you don't really have at the moment. So figuring that out is going to be pretty key for Toronto moving forward, as tough as it is. It wouldn't be for Damian Lillard, but I do think there's a potential Raptors-Blazers trade and some multiverse, whether it's for Anunoby or Siakam or even Barnes, in which the Raptors get a young guard, and maybe it's Siakam then to fit with the Dame Lillard timeline, and the Raptors get one of the overflow guards in Portland. That's just a crazy hypothetical that I doubt they'll do or consider, but it would actually make some sense, I think, for all parties involved. But the timing seems to have passed for Portland's perspective. So will the Raptors make any major trades? 1 for yes, they'll do at least one of them, whether it's Anunoby or Siakam, or maybe they go get somebody somehow. 0 for no, they will not. I myself lean towards 0. I don't think a trade's coming, but get your votes in for me in the comment section. One NBA free agency news and note here. Rudy Gay, who of course was waived by the Thunder after he was traded earlier this offseason, allegedly has multiple teams interested. Now, Gay will turn 37 before the season begins, but there has been interest in him because he can still contribute as a backup veteran wing and mentor, can still give you a couple minutes per game and not be a liability. 5 teams linked to Rudy Gay, some of which are really interesting. The Chicago Bulls still don't know what their overall goal is. Are they rebuilding, trying to win now? I guess trying to win now with LaVine and DeRozan, but DeRozan, Gay, that's a fun duo again. In terms of one's a star, one's your 9th man or whatever. Dallas Mavericks, always in the market for wings. They still need a center, though, which they seem to just want to play Dwight Powell. It's weird. The Lakers, who get linked to most big-name wings. I think they need a big man more than a wing, by the way. The Pelicans might actually be a good thing for Zion. And the Golden State Warriors, trying to form the oldest NBA rotation in history with, Chris Paul. Let's just bring in Rudy Gay, too. Why not? I guess you're not going to play Kuminga. Who knows? So prediction time, then we'll talk more about him. Who will sign Rudy Gay? That was actually really mean to me for all 5 of those teams, so I apologize. I was just being funny, or at least trying to be. Who will sign Rudy Gay? Get those predictions in for me in the comment section. Gay's numbers have declined. He's not the same player he was even with the Spurs versus his peak years, but he can give you hopefully better three-point shooting next year. Otherwise, that's a real problem. He can't be shooting 25% from deep in the modern-day NBA. But he can give you a couple points per game, be a good vet mentor in what might end up being his final year in the NBA.